You think you know the people around you, but sometimes the person smiling at you, sharing jokes, or offering help is hiding something far darker. Evil doesn't always announce itself with cruelty or violence. It often creeps in quietly, wrapped in charm, kindness, or even love. It manipulates without you realizing, preys on trust, and leaves scars you may not even recognize at first. If you've ever felt drained, confused, or betrayed by someone you trusted, it's possible you were dealing with a hidden darkness. Today, we'll uncover the 5 clear signs that reveal when someone's heart is not what it seems, and why recognizing them could protect your life and your peace. Before we can identify evil in others, we need to understand what it truly is. Evil is not just bad behavior or mistakes. It is a consistent pattern of choosing harm over good, of putting one's desires above the well-being of others without remorse. Philosophers and psychologists often describe it as the deliberate neglect of empathy, honesty, and integrity. It is a force that erodes trust, manipulates reality, and leaves a trail of pain. Recognizing evil is not about labeling someone harshly, but about seeing patterns in their actions. When someone repeatedly prioritizes self-interest at the expense of others, takes pleasure in suffering, or ignores moral responsibility, these are not isolated moments, they are signs of a deeper moral failure. Understanding this allows you to step back and observe behavior with clarity rather than emotion, which is the first step in protecting yourself and maintaining peace of mind. It's not about fear, it's about wisdom. By learning to recognize the essence of evil, you build a lens through which you can discern intentions, navigate relationships, and avoid unnecessary harm. Awareness is the shield that prevents you from being ensnared by the subtle, often invisible, forms of cruelty that exist in everyday life. Evil people rarely reveal themselves openly. Most of the time they hide behind masks of charm, humor, or generosity, making it difficult to see their true intentions. This is not just deception for personal gain, it is a careful strategy to gain trust, influence decisions, and manipulate perceptions. History is full of examples, leaders, public figures, or even acquaintances who appeared kind and trustworthy but left destruction in their wake. Understanding why people hide their true nature helps you recognize the subtle signs before it's too late. They may smile when you succeed, offer advice, or appear supportive, but their actions often carry a hidden agenda. They study human behavior, exploiting weaknesses, insecurities, and desires, all while keeping their own motives invisible. By the time you sense danger, they have already influenced your thoughts and emotions, making it harder to separate truth from manipulation. Recognizing this pattern requires attention, reflection, and trust in your instincts. People who consistently act with integrity do not need to disguise their intentions, while those who seek to harm or control will often do so behind a veil of normalcy. Learning to see past the mask allows you to respond with clarity rather than emotion, giving you the power to protect yourself before harm takes root. It is a lesson in observation, patience, and disciplined awareness, skills that guard not only your relationships but your inner peace. The first clear sign of dealing with an evil person is constant manipulation. This is not the occasional disagreement or honest debate. It is a persistent effort to control your thoughts, feelings, and actions for their own benefit. Manipulation comes in many forms: guilt-tripping, twisting facts, exaggerating situations, or making you question your own memory or perception. Gaslighting, for example, is a classic method where someone intentionally distorts reality to make you doubt yourself. You may feel confused, anxious, or overly apologetic, even when you've done nothing wrong. Manipulative people often prey on your vulnerabilities, using your kindness, insecurities, or past experiences against you. They rarely confront issues directly. Instead, they redirect, distract, or distort the conversation to maintain power. It is subtle, persistent, and calculated, leaving you drained and uncertain. Recognizing manipulation is about noticing patterns rather than isolated events. Ask yourself, do I consistently feel responsible for their emotions? Do I question my own judgment around this person? These questions reveal the truth hidden beneath charm and politeness. Understanding manipulation is not about reacting impulsively or seeking revenge. It is about reclaiming your autonomy. When you see these behaviors clearly, you can set firm boundaries, protect your energy, and prevent yourself from being entangled in a web of deceit. Awareness transforms confusion into clarity, giving you the strength to respond rather than be controlled. The second sign is a lack of empathy. Evil people rarely, if ever, truly consider the feelings, needs, or suffering of others. They may act kind or sympathetic when it serves their purpose, but this is often a performance, not genuine concern. True empathy requires understanding another person's pain and responding with care or compassion. Those who are emotionally cold, indifferent to suffering, or exploit others' vulnerabilities without hesitation show a fundamental moral deficit. You might notice it in subtle ways. They dismiss your struggles, make jokes about serious situations, or seem unaffected when someone is hurt. It is not simply being busy or distracted. It is a pattern of ignoring humanity itself. Lack of empathy allows them to harm without guilt, to manipulate without conscience, and to pursue selfish goals without moral restraint. When interacting with such individuals, you may feel unseen, unheard, or emotionally drained. Over time, this erodes your sense of trust and security, leaving you vulnerable to further harm. Recognizing this sign requires careful observation of actions rather than words, because people who lack empathy can speak convincingly while acting cruelly. Understanding the absence of empathy is a crucial step in protecting yourself, as it highlights that their intentions are not aligned with your well-being. Accepting this reality allows you to respond with clear boundaries and measured caution, preserving your peace and emotional health in the face of indifference or malice. The third sign is consistent deception. Evil people lie, mislead, or withhold the truth as a regular part of their behavior. It's not about the occasional white lie or forgetting details. It's a deliberate pattern meant to control perception, gain advantage, or avoid accountability. They may tell half-truths, exaggerate facts, or create elaborate stories designed to confuse and manipulate. Over time, these lies accumulate, creating a distorted reality where you begin to doubt what is true and what is false. This erosion of trust is intentional, because when you cannot rely on their words, you become easier to influence. Deception can be subtle, a hidden motive behind a compliment, a story told to cast someone else in a negative light, or promises never intended to be kept. Recognizing this sign means paying attention to consistency between words and actions. Ask yourself, do their actions regularly contradict their claims? Do you feel a growing sense of uncertainty after conversations with them? These are clues that something deeper is at work. Understanding patterns of deception equips you to protect your decisions, your relationships, and your own mental clarity. By seeing through repeated dishonesty, you gain the ability to disengage from manipulation and maintain a clear perspective, refusing to let lies shape your reality. The fourth sign is a pleasure in others' misfortune. Some people take subtle or overt delight when others fail, struggle, or suffer. This can appear as laughing at mistakes, spreading rumors, or making sarcastic remarks that undermine someone's confidence. It might seem small at first, a joke, a teasing comment, but over time it reveals a deeper moral flaw. Evil people often derive satisfaction from seeing others hurt because it reinforces their sense of superiority, control, or security. They may also manipulate situations to ensure others stumble, then enjoy watching the consequences unfold. Recognizing this sign requires observing emotional reactions carefully. Do they seem genuinely happy when someone succeeds? Or is there always a hint of resentment, mockery, or gloating? Do they exploit failures for amusement or personal gain? Understanding this behavior is crucial because it signals a lack of compassion and an active desire to harm, even indirectly. People who take joy in misfortune rarely change because this pleasure is part of how they view the world. Awareness allows you to distance yourself emotionally and avoid giving them power over your feelings. By noticing this subtle cruelty, you protect your self-esteem, your energy, and your sense of safety, refusing to participate in their enjoyment of pain. The fifth sign is repeated boundary violations. Evil people often disregard the limits of others, whether personal, emotional, or ethical. They may intrude on your privacy, ignore your requests, or pressure you into doing things you're uncomfortable with. This is not a one-time mistake or accidental oversight. It is a consistent pattern that demonstrates a lack of respect for your autonomy. They test boundaries to see how much control they can exert, and when they succeed, they push further. Over time, these violations can feel overwhelming, leaving you anxious, frustrated, or even questioning your own judgment. Recognizing this behavior requires attentiveness. Notice when your boundaries are ignored, your consent is bypassed, or your personal space is treated as theirs to command. Evil people see rules and limits not as protections, but as obstacles to overcome in pursuit of their own desires. Understanding this pattern is crucial because boundaries are the framework of healthy relationships and personal integrity. When someone persistently violates them, it is a clear signal that their intentions are not aligned with your well-being. Awareness allows you to assert limits, protect yourself from manipulation, and refuse to accept harm as normal. Respecting yourself begins with recognizing when others do not, and acting accordingly to preserve your peace and dignity. Interacting with evil people takes a real toll on your mind and emotions. Over time, constant manipulation, lies, lack of empathy, and boundary violations create stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. You may begin to question your own judgment, feel drained after conversations, or notice a creeping sense of fear or unease. These effects are not imaginary. They are the natural response of your mind and body to repeated exposure to harmful behavior. Evil does not always leave visible scars, but it erodes confidence, peace, and clarity. Recognizing the impact is important because it reminds you that protecting yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. When you understand how these behaviors affect you, you can take deliberate steps to safeguard your energy and emotional health. This might mean limiting contact, practicing mental detachment, or developing clear boundaries. Philosophers and psychologists alike note that awareness is the first step toward resilience. By observing how someone's actions influence your emotions, you gain insight into their true nature and your own needs. Self-protection does not require retaliation or hostility. It is about creating a safe mental and emotional space where manipulation cannot take root. Your peace is your responsibility, and recognizing the impact of evil behavior empowers you to reclaim control over your mind, your choices, and your life. Recognizing patterns early is one of the most effective ways to protect yourself from evil people. Often, their harmful behaviors start subtly. Small lies, minor manipulations, or occasional disregard for boundaries, but these early signs are warnings. Paying attention to consistency between words and actions can reveal intentions before they escalate. Observe how they react to others' successes, failures, or emotions, and notice whether they respect your limits or push against them. Trusting your intuition is equally important. Your mind often senses danger before your rational thoughts catch up. Simple habits, like reflecting on interactions at the end of the day or discussing them with trusted friends, can help you detect patterns. Being aware does not mean becoming paranoid. It means staying alert and deliberate in your relationships. By identifying early warning signs, you prevent yourself from being entangled in manipulation, lies, or emotional harm. Awareness allows you to act thoughtfully, assert boundaries, and choose who deserves your trust. Ultimately, recognizing patterns early is a form of self-respect and personal security. It teaches you to value your peace over appearances and to see the truth beneath charm, flattery, or friendliness before it causes lasting damage. Setting and enforcing boundaries is one of the most powerful tools you have when dealing with evil people. Boundaries are not punishments or tests. They are statements of your values, limits, and self-respect. Without them, manipulation, deceit, and emotional harm can escalate unchecked. Start by clearly defining what you will and will not tolerate, whether it's lying, disrespect, or invasive behavior. Communicate these limits calmly and firmly, without anger or over-explanation. Evil people often test boundaries, so consistency is crucial. If a limit is crossed, respond immediately and proportionately. This might mean removing yourself from a conversation, refusing a request, or distancing yourself from the relationship entirely. Establishing boundaries also involves protecting your mental and emotional space. Limit exposure to conversations or environments that drain you, and prioritize activities and people that reinforce your well-being. By maintaining boundaries, you signal that your time, energy, and dignity are not negotiable. Over time, this practice builds resilience, clarity, and confidence, reducing the influence of those who seek to manipulate or harm. Boundaries are not walls. They are shields that allow you to interact with the world safely, thoughtfully, and without compromising your values or peace. Emotional detachment is another essential strategy when dealing with someone who consistently exhibits harmful behavior. This does not mean becoming cold or unfeeling, but rather learning to separate your sense of self from their actions and words. Evil people often provoke strong emotional reactions because they know it gives them power and control. By observing without immediate reaction, you deny them that leverage. Practice seeing their behavior objectively. Note the manipulation, lies, or cruelty without internalizing it as a reflection of your worth. This perspective allows you to respond with calm clarity instead of anger, guilt, or fear. Detachment also protects your mental energy, preventing you from becoming consumed by their chaos. Over time, it becomes easier to predict patterns, recognize triggers, and act thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Remember, emotional detachment is not about ignoring reality or excusing harmful actions. It is about maintaining clarity and balance. It is a disciplined practice, a mental shield that preserves your peace while allowing you to navigate interactions safely. When you detach appropriately, you take back control of your emotions, making it far harder for evil behavior to dominate your thoughts or decisions. Accountability is a crucial step in protecting yourself from evil people. When you clearly document interactions, keep track of repeated lies or manipulations, and discuss patterns with trusted friends or mentors, you create an external perspective that helps you see the truth more clearly. Evil individuals often rely on confusion, secrecy, and isolation to maintain control. By holding a record of behaviors and seeking outside insight, you reduce their power to distort reality. This doesn't mean obsessing over every detail, it means maintaining awareness and clarity. Accountability also strengthens your boundaries, because you can reference past incidents to justify your limits and decisions without being swayed by charm or false apologies. Philosophers have long emphasized the importance of reflection and self-observation, and applying this to relationships allows you to act with reason rather than emotion. With accountability, you no longer rely solely on instinct, which can be clouded by manipulation or fear. Instead, you combine observation, reflection, and external validation to make informed choices. This approach empowers you to disengage when necessary, protect your mental and emotional health, and navigate interactions with a clear understanding of the person's true nature. Sometimes, the most dangerous aspect of dealing with an evil person is underestimating them. People often assume that kindness, reason, or moral behavior will influence others in the same way, but evil does not operate under these rules. They exploit patience, generosity, and trust, seeing them as weaknesses to manipulate or control. History and literature are filled with examples of individuals who underestimated the subtle cruelty of others, only to suffer betrayal, loss, or humiliation. Recognizing the potential for harm without assuming it will not occur is not pessimism, it is realism. It allows you to remain vigilant, cautious, and proactive in your interactions. This means keeping a balanced perspective. You can engage socially or professionally while still protecting your values and limits. It also involves learning from experience and observation, noting behaviors that signal danger, and adjusting your approach accordingly. Underestimating evil is often what allows it to gain influence in the first place. By acknowledging that some people will act in harmful ways regardless of reason or fairness, you give yourself the foresight and discipline to respond wisely, maintain your peace, and prevent unnecessary entanglement in manipulation, deceit, or emotional harm. Awareness and respect for reality become your strongest tools in navigating these relationships safely. Dealing with evil people often requires difficult decisions about distance and disengagement. Once you have recognized the signs, manipulation, lack of empathy, deception, delight in others' misfortune, and repeated boundary violations, it becomes clear that not all relationships are worth maintaining. Choosing to step back is not weakness or avoidance. It is a conscious act of self-preservation. This might mean limiting contact, refusing to engage in certain conversations, or ending the relationship entirely if the harm is persistent. Disengagement allows you to reclaim your mental and emotional energy, protecting yourself from ongoing stress and manipulation. It also communicates silently but powerfully that your boundaries and dignity cannot be ignored. Many people struggle with this step because of guilt, loyalty, or fear of confrontation. But understanding that some individuals cannot be changed is liberating. By prioritizing your peace over obligation, you create space for healthier relationships and more constructive environments. Stepping back does not require hostility. It is about clarity, control, and mindful choice. Ultimately, disengagement is a strategic and compassionate decision for yourself, for your stability, and for the possibility of surrounding yourself with people who contribute positively to your life rather than draining or harming it. If you found this helpful, subscribe now to learn how to protect your mind and peace in every relationship.